This episode of the Echo Ratings Eventing Podcast is actually an Eventing Podcast Classics show, and we are throwing it back to September 2020, when the guest on our Hall of Fame show was none other than Captain Mark Phillips. And this is a really, really interesting show because it is all about his career, not only as a rider, but as a coach and a course designer as well. So we thought it would be the perfect one to give you as a classic show. This is a Hall of Fame show. Captain Mark Phillips first released on the 4th of September 2020. But even if you listen then, I think you'll enjoy listening again. Welcome to the Echo Ratings Eventing Podcast. And listeners, we have got another Hall of Fame special for you. So we've already done a few of these shows, myself and Catherine Austin. And Catherine is with me again today for our next guest. He is a man who has enjoyed a top-level career, both as a rider and as a course designer and as a trainer. We're going to talk about all of that today. He has won badminton 4 times. He has won Burghley. He has won gold medals at World, European and Olympic Championship level. Welcome to the show, Captain Mark Phillips.
Morning.
We are so looking forward to talking to you, Mark, because obviously you have had such an extraordinary career across all of the different facets of eventing, and there is no man that has more experience than you, and we are looking forward to picking your brains and looking back at some of the highlights. Now, I think it probably fits because we would all love to be at Burghley this week. It would be certainly something that we would very much be enjoying, but obviously coronavirus has meant that we are not there, so we can't be, but we can relive some of the highlights. And I know it has been an extraordinarily special place and part of your career. So we thought we could start by looking back at some of your favourite Burghley memories, and perhaps even at the start of your riding career, because am I right in thinking that you actually rode at Burghley for the first time when you were in the Pony Club?
Yeah, those were the good old days when the Pony Club Championships used to be at Burghley, and I was lucky enough in the Beaufort Pony Club to go there 2 or 3 times, and so that was very special as a kid to be able to, to ride at those championships at the same time as the Freedom event. So
were the championships run alongside the long format of Burghley in those days?
It's a long time ago now, but yes, basically. Don't ask me what happened on which day, but it was the same weekend, yes.
Massively inspirational. And you actually made your Burghley debut. I think you were only 19 when you went to Burghley for the long format big class at the time, and you finished 4th. How was your debut at the venue? Because that's a pretty dreamy start to a top level career.
Yeah, I mean, in fact, I was only 18. And I think I was like 38th out of 40 after the dressage, and then 10th after the cross country, and 4th after the show jumping. So the only trouble was it sort of then dawned on me that if I wanted to be successful in the sport, or more successful in the sport, I had to go and learn to ride in a 20-metre circle. Yeah? That wasn't the best day of my life.
And Mark, that was rock on, wasn't it? Tell us a bit about him. How did you come to ride him, and what sort of a horse was he?
He was a bit of a runaway, but in a way ideal for the long format. But I was a kid; I had absolutely no idea what I was doing, and we just sort of galloped round. I had a curb chain on him, and he split the middle part of the curb chain open on the round, and I finished some ridiculous amount inside the time, but that was the horse. He could gallop and jump forever, and it was great for me to have that type of horse, when I was starting out. No, because he then went on to be went on to be 4th at badminton the following year, and then that same year in 1968, I got to go to the Olympic Games in Mexico as a reserve rider. Even though I was an officer cadet at Sandhurst, I didn't ride in Mexico when Richard Meade and Derek Alhusen and Jane Bullen, holding this rod now, were all there, and Ben Jones. They won the gold medal, but again, that was a great experience for me, and then the rest was all history.
How did you juggle your career in the army alongside your eventing when the two were intertwined at the start of your career?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, the army was a job, but when I went into the army, I did understand that they'd probably give me the opportunity to ride and to compete at a high level. And that's how I had to organise my life. And I was in the regiment, the Queen's Dragoon Guards, and they said as long as I ran a tip-top troop, they would give me time away to train and compete. But if my troop with the regiment wasn't at the top of the list, they said don't expect any time away, and that was a great sort of, if you like, principle in life to live by, and what I've lived by ever since.
Mark, the great horses of your career, horses like Great Ovation and Columbus. What are when you look back at your riding career, what do you think you did best? What do you think was your greatest achievement?
Well, what I did best was the cross country. The dressage was always a bit of a struggle, and finished up not being too bad at the show jumping. But when I started out, my first Burley I was fourth, my first badminton I was fourth. And then the following year I rode in the European Championships at Harrow-de-Pin. And then the following year, I had a catch ride at the World Championships in Punchestown on Chicago, which was had been Bertie Hill's ride before that, and we won the World Championships there. Then the following year, I had Great Ovation, who wasn't one of the best horses I ever rode. He was good at the dressage, he was careful show jumping, but if I ever asked him for a standoff in the cross country, he'd stop. So I had to be quite conservative with him on the cross country, and I got real lucky because he did a good dressage then in '71. I got stopped halfway around the cross country down by the Vicarage Ditch for about 20 minutes because an Irish horse had a problem at the Normandy Bank. But it was long enough for me to think, hang on a minute, I'm now starting with a completely fresh horse. And so the second half of the course, I approached with a completely different attitude and went as fast as I could and finished up inside the time, and we won the competition. And I don't think we would have won it if I hadn't been stopped on the cross country. So I got something to thank the Irish for. And then the next year we went to Munich, won the gold medal, but only I was lucky again because I'd forgotten to start my watch on the steeplechase course, and so I had a time penalty on the steeplechase course. And so I was second after the cross country. But luckily, Richard Mead had a time fault on Lauriston, so I finished up winning. So that was Great Ovation, and he was a good horse. He was always a better horse in the spring than he was out of the hunting field than he was in the autumn. And
your other two badminton wins. I mean, once you won one badminton once, okay, you win it again. You must think, wow, this is pretty special. This probably isn't going to happen again. But you went on to win it on two more occasions. What were they like? In '73, I had Columbus there, and I'd just taken the ride on from Princess Anne, and I had a couple of falls, once along at Luckington Lane, and I think one in the lake, and it was. But he was just a great horse, probably the best horse I ever rode. And I remember that winter having dinner with Mike Tucker and said, he'll win badminton next year. And Mike said, nah, don't be daft. And so we had about £50. And anyway, 1974, he came out and won badminton and won it easily. And then, of course, probably the saddest moment of my life, he was winning the World Championships of Burghley in '74. And he slipped the tendon off his hock at the second last fence on the cross country, and then didn't jump on the last day. So we finished up giving that World Championship to Bruce Davidson. So that was probably the saddest moment of my life on the best horse I ever rode in. And I think didn't he eventually go hunting again afterwards? That wasn't completely. I know he didn't compete again, but that wasn't the end of everything, was it?
No, I mean he obviously wasn't sound enough with the tendon off one hock, so I took him hunting, and he hunted for quite a few years. And then out hunting, he slipped the tendon off the other hock. And
really?
So now he was sound. Once he had the best action behind, he was sound. And so I took him to, in fact, I rode him around the Grand National with Richard Pittman.
Amazing.
For the BBC. Took him to one event, really without any preparation. And then he was third that year at Babington, with his tendons off both hocks. I was sort of, it was fantastic and a fairy tale, but I thought, well, if I just actually prepared him a bit more for the first
what could have
day,
been?
he could probably win another badminton, yeah.
What stands out for you? Obviously, you've ridden at Olympics, European Championships, at which you won a gold medal at Burghley in 1971. You've been to World Championships and medalled at those as well. What stands out for you as your favourite team championship memory or performance?
I think, from, I was going to say any athlete, the Olympic Games is something special. So when you stand on that podium, with a gold medal and you see the Union Jack go up, that's a very emotive moment or emotional moment, sorry. And that's something special and an experience which I feel extremely fortunate to have enjoyed.
And then, Mark, when the riding came to an end, how did the next phase take off? What came first, course designing or coaching, and why did you sort of go down those routes?
Well, I think I then went on actually riding for quite a long time, and of course rode Lincoln at Badminton to win in '81, and that was another experience. I mean, Lincoln, because I spent more than a year, trying to ride him in a conventional way, and he used to stop and stop and stop and stop. So eventually I had to ride him his way, because he would always back up when he got to the fence. So, coming down to a coffin at 600 meters a minute, or to the lake at Badminton at 600 meters a minute, thinking you're going to die, but hoping that he's going to do his normal thing and back up and jump was another experience. But we managed to do it, and he won in '81. But really, then in the '80s, I was already doing a bit of teaching, and of course we started the event at Gatcombe in '82, '83, sometime then. I learned a huge amount from Frank Weldon, who came and helped me at the beginning with the course at Gatcombe. And cross country has always been my thing, and so I'd always had an interest in fences and how they rode and how they jumped. And so, as I say, started to design in the '80s, and I was already teaching at the same time. So that when I decided to retire in '88 after the Seoul Olympics, where we won a silver medal, it was sort of opportune, if you like. I got asked to do my first Burghley in '89, and so luckily, thanks to a lot of help from Wolfgang Felt, who was the TD that time, because otherwise I would have probably built something that was unjumpable. He said to me, young man, he said, you have to realize you're not building this for yourself. You have to build it for all the other competitors. Oh, okay. But that was a huge learning curve, and then it went on from there. And then I went with the Brits to Punchestown, the Europeans, in '89, where Ian Stark won the individual, and we won the team. And then in '90, I went to Stockholm again with the Brits, the World Games. And then in '91, '92, I was then asked to help the Spanish, and I deliberated for a long time. And I remember sitting in Mike Tucker's kitchen, into the early hours of the morning, deliberating. Should I go overseas? Is this the right thing to do? And am I turning my back on Great Britain? But they'd offer me a good contract, and I had to earn a living somehow. So I took the Spanish job in for the Barcelona Olympics in '92, where we finished fifth, with, I have to say, not a tremendous amount of resource in terms of horses and riders. And then after that, I got the call to go for an interview in New York with the Americans, and so did 20 years in America coaching. Well, we won 26 medals with the Americans, and that was another massive part of my life. 20 years is a long time to be with one team.
And I guess, was that the gold medal at Jerez at the World Games there? Would you say that was the highlight of those 2 decades?
Yes, I mean yes. In a word, to win a world championship for the team is very very special. But the memories with American, when we won at Burley, we won at Badminton, we won so much. It was a tremendous experience that worked for me, worked for them, and I had a great team working with me. Brendan Furlong, my vet, and Steve Teachman, my farrier. I owe a lot of those successes to them. They were geniuses in having horses sound and ready for the last day. And if you have a great team and a great team spirit, we very rarely, in fact, for 16 years, we didn't go to a championship without winning a medal. So it was quite a good record.
It was a real golden era, Mark, for the American team. How difficult was the decision to change course designing? Obviously, Burley, it is heading into new hands with Derek de Grazia in 2021. But how has that been? Because it has been such a massive part of your life, the course designing, the coaching. Do you have any plans for the future and things that actually you'd still like to tick off? Because you've accomplished so much. Is there anything that you would still really like to achieve in the sport?
I don't think I finished with my designing. I still design courses on both sides of the Atlantic. I still very much enjoy my designing, but I'm also now trying to do more consultative work in that get younger people to do the courses, and I just come in for a day and say, yeah, great idea. I'm not sure this one's going to work. We might need to soften the angle here or make the distance different there. So I'm more of a consultant because, I've 30 years designing at the 4-star level or now 5-star level is a long time. And I've learned a lot over those years, and hopefully I'm now a better designer than I was when I started. We've learnt so much about how a horse sees in terms of color, contrast, how much the horse gains the information from the sides of the fence as it gets closer. So we've been able to make massive advances in terms of helping the horse to understand the question and helping the horse to jump the fences. And the more that I can help pass that experience on to the next generation, the healthier the sport's going to be.
And I know you still do a lot of private coaching. I mean, Andrew Hoy's Instagram is full of his most recent Mark Phillips cross-country lesson. Are you as busy as you ever have been doing that sort of thing? And I think you've done some work with the New Zealanders, haven't you, as well, recently?
Yeah, I mean, and I work with Andrew and one or two of the Australians, and I've done, 1 or 2 days. Well, COVID, it's only been 1 day this year, but with the New Zealand team, and you think, oh my God, what am I going to be able to teach Mark Todd or Tim Price, or but actually, when you get out there and when you watch and look, there's always something. There's always some little area where you can improve, and people are happy to listen to me. I'm happy to share my advice and my experience. And the more you can help people, hopefully the faster and safer they'll go across the country, and hopefully help people to win more competitions.
And what do you think of eventing at the moment? Where do you think we are? Is it? Do you have concerns? What do you like about the present sport, and what might you worry about?
The future. We all thought when we went to the short format that horses would be able to do more, run in more 4 stars, 5 stars every year because they weren't travelling so far. But actually, quite the opposite is the case. In the old format, we used to go on those 12, 13-minute cross-country courses. But jumping at 180, 185 meters per effort. Now in the short format, we're down to 140, 145 meters per effort. So you can't jump the coffin or the water or the quarry any faster today than you could 50 years ago. So just take the coffin. It's got three elements, so 3 efforts. Well, 40 meters per effort. So you've got 120 less meters to be able to make up that time that you lost at the coffin. Therefore, horses are having to go much faster in between the fences than they did in the long format. Well, we all know the faster you go, the more likely you are to sustain injuries, and that's what we're seeing. And in the old days, the horses used to finish tired, and then they'd still be tired on Monday morning. Now the horses finish winded, short of oxygen, and 20 minutes later they've recovered and they're bucking and kicking in their stable. So it's a completely different sport. And one of the sadnesses to me, okay, the expertise. I mean, sport moves on. You can never stand still in sport. So, the training's got better. The horses are different. The dressage test is more difficult. The show jumps are bigger. But the cross country, the fences aren't any bigger, but the technical aspect is a lot more in terms of jumping the skinnies and jumping the angles. But has it made the sport any safer? No, because people are having to go faster in between the fences, and I worry very much about the Olympic format with 3 in the team and 3 to count. You could do a gold medal performance, be unlucky and get an overreach or a speedy cut and not be able to jump. So not only do you not win a medal, a lot of your performance funding will go for the next 4 years, and oh dear, the law of unintended consequence has no bounds here, and it's a worry. It's a worry. I mean, are we still going to be in the Olympic Games? Well, hopefully in Paris, yes, and Los Angeles, yes. I think the French and the Americans will want to still keep the sport, but it's not a slam dunk.
Do you think that you would have enjoyed competing? Well, do you think you'd enjoy the modern sport as a rider?
Well, it seems that the people are able to go on much longer in the modern sport. When you look at the age of a lot of the top competitors now. I retired when I was 40 because I was finding it more difficult to stay competitive in the long format. I felt I was going quick as I wanted to go, or quick as I could, and that somehow the young seem to be able to go faster. Now, whether that would be different in the modern sport, I don't know, but certainly the longevity of riders' careers seems to have got longer. The longevity of horses' careers seems to have got longer because of the veterinary science is so much better these days. I mean, we weren't able to treat in the 70s joint disease and things like an arthritis like we can today, and I just wonder whether actually some of the horsemanship has gone out of the sport now, and obviously a massive generalization because there's some unbelievable good horsemen in the sport, and particularly the top of the sport. But sport is so different now when you've got the people learn to go eventing now at 80, 90, 100. BE, up to a meter high. I mean, we didn't go eventing unless we could jump, a gate or a post and rails, and not big timber like we have these days, at a meter 10. And we actually had to jump the fences because we knew if we didn't jump the fences, we were going to get hurt. So we took care to jump the fences, and we didn't have air jackets or any form of sort of body protection. But we didn't get hurt because we knew we had to jump the fences. But now, I know that the commercial model is, with massive participation at the lower levels, and that's what, to a large extent, is keeping the sport of eventing afloat in this country. But I don't think you see greater horsemanship, which is sort of, I mean, you watch some of the 80, 90, 100, some of that is really, really scary to watch. And, and I think, we then see, more serious incidents when people get to 1.10 meter, because they haven't had to learn to ride at those lower levels. And so, we keep trying to make the sport safer with design and frangible fences and air jackets and bigger ground lines and, but actually it's not making the sport safer, because we're qualifying people to a level above where they should be competing, and the consequences can be serious.
If you could give a piece of advice now to anybody either competing for fun or looking to make their way in the sport professionally, either as a rider, a coach, or a course designer, what would be the sort of overriding message that you would like to get across that you think would really help improve that horsemanship?
Well, first thing, if you're not doing it for fun, if you're not enjoying it, don't do it.
Yep.
Because if you're not enjoying it, you're not going to be good at it. And I don't care whether it's designing or riding or teaching. My knowledge now as a teacher against when I started is 100% different. Same with my course designing. So you've got to have an interest. Be more than interest. Almost you've got to be passionate about whatever you do, and have a mind whereby you understand that the day you start learning is the day you die, because every day we learn something new. That's an experience that you can carry forward to be better in your field in the future.
Mark, one thing that fascinates me about your career, which people might not know, but I think it adds into this conversation, is the amount of pure show jumping you did. Just tell us a little bit about that and how it then influenced you having done it.
See, I went to the Montreal Olympics in 1976, again as reserve rider. With 2 sound horses, and we knew beforehand that the horses in the team weren't all the soundest, and we finished up not finishing a team, and I was really disillusioned that we didn't finish a team because of soundness, and I'd had 2 horses there, sound horses, that either of which could have run, and at that time, fortuitously, Trevor Banks offered me the ride on Hideaway, and so I finished up riding Hideaway and Chainbridge and Anglesark and all those great horses, and riding in Nations Cup and the Hickstead Derby, the King George at Wembley. I had a great time show jumping, and I got the buttons because we won the President's Cup for the winning Nations Cup teams, and it was a great experience. And people said to me, "Oh, you'll never be able to ride cross country if you go show jumping." Well, let me tell you, if you think you can come down to a 160 oxer or a 7-foot wall without your leg on, you need to think again. Show jumping over 120 or 130 as it is now, you can leave a gap, you can lift the horse partly over the fence. There's all sorts of things you can do to help the horse. There's no substitute when you're jumping those big fences. You've got to have your leg on, you've got to come to the horse, and you've got to ride it real. And actually, I think that my show jumping, 77, 78, 79, 80, actually massively improved my riding when I concentrated more in the 80s back eventing again. I was a much better rider for that. And I've got a huge amount of thanks to Trevor Banks for giving me that opportunity.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting.
Your career, Mark, is absolutely fascinating because there are so many different facets to it. And the one thing that I hope shines through, listeners, in this show is very much the level of horsemanship, whether you are riding, whether you are training, or whether you are course designing it and setting somebody a challenge that they are then going on to to complete. So Mark, a huge thank you, because it has been so interesting to delve a little bit into your career and your highlights. If there is, just to finish, one memory, it can be absolutely anything from your entire equestrian career, what stands out as either your favorite memory or your proudest moment in the sport of eventing?
That's such a difficult one. You've got to think. I was in the Beaufort Pony Club, so I grew up at Badminton or around Badminton. And so, the first time as a kid, you just dream about one day being able to ride at Badminton. So the first time you win Badminton, that was a massive occasion. But then, seeing the Union Jack go up at the Olympic Games was another massive moment. And, winning all those medals with the Americans, and I think probably particularly the World Championships and the rest, is another. And then, course designing, it's course designing, you worry and worry and worry and worry that have you got it right and whatever. And, you can never relax until the last horse and rider's home safely. And so, every time, you see the last horse and rider home safely, and you've had a good day's sport and a lot of happy horses and riders, those are the best days.
About Zara finishing second at Burghley, that must have been a pretty special day, Mark. You bred the jockey and produced the course.
Yeah, but Zara that year, when she was second and Pippa Fallon went on to win the Grand Slam, she was very much like I was in my first Burghley. She didn't really understand what she was doing, went way too fast and inside the time and whatever. Obviously disappointed to be second, but that was the start of her going on to win individual European, individual world gold medals as well as the team medals. So that was, if you like, another chapter of my life, which was very, very special.
It is an absolutely extraordinary career, and we will look forward to seeing what happens next, because you said it earlier on in the show, you are far from done. There are still a lot of courses that you are designing, and I've no doubt that we will look forward to following the next chapter. But Mark, thank you so much for coming on to the EquiRatings Eventing podcast, and welcome to the Hall of Fame.
Thank you.
Listeners, we hope you've enjoyed this latest episode. Catherine, a huge thank you to you as well for joining me, and we will be back very soon. But in the meantime, thanks for listening. So there you have it. That was our Hall of Fame with Captain Mark Phillips. And actually, we've got plenty of other Hall of Fame shows as well. The likes of Mary King, Lucinda Green, Ginny Lang. Jane Holderness-Rodham was actually the latest guest on the show. They are one of our most popular episodes. Whenever we do them, people absolutely love them. So we will be doing a few more throughout 2023. And we would love to know who you guys would like us to feature. We've got a few names up our sleeves, but we would love any suggestions in as well. So by all means, send us a message if you've got any requests, and we will do our best. But for now, thank you as always for listening, and thank you to Captain Mark Phillips for all of his time on the show.